Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane, where the takes have no lies, no bias, but most importantly, no shame. I'm your host, Shane Fordham, and we are talking free agency period. You already know what it was when you logged on. We are talking free agency period. It is going down this week, and it's already been some crazy moves. It's already been a wild week, and it's only been about a couple of days, but we already have crazy moves going down. Just jumping right in, starting with we can't talk anything before we talk this, arguably the biggest trade of the offseason so far. Max Crosby heading to the Baltimore Ravens for 2 firsts. This is a huge deal. Huge deal. I mean, the Ravens obviously get an elite defensive end to add to what could be an elite pass rush when healthy in 2026. Nnamdi Madubuike, Kyle Van Noy, just an all-out squad up front, and then you obviously have a healthy Roquan Smith that should be suited and booted this season. Healthy secondary, hopefully. So this is a huge pickup for the Ravens. But in my opinion, the Ravens picking up Max Crosby, I think the Ravens overpaid for Max Crosby. They definitely overpaid for Max Crosby. Like, I don't think the Ravens should have given up 2 firsts for Max Crosby. Like, if Max Crosby was the difference between the Ravens winning a Super Bowl and them basically falling short, I would co-sign it. I would see it, but he's not that. Like, Max Crosby is not the difference between a Super Bowl or a failed Super Bowl run for the Ravens, because defense hasn't been the problem for the Ravens in the playoffs. Like, their issue hasn't been the defense, it's been the offense. It's been Lamar Jackson. Like, we've seen the Ravens lose with elite defenses before. Defenses that honestly have looked more complete than what the Ravens currently look like going into 2026. Like 2023, the Ravens had the top scoring defense in the NFL, leading the league in sacks, just the all-out best defense in the NFL. Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, Madubuike, Geno Stone, who was an interceptions leader that year. They lose in the AFC Championship to Patrick Mahomes. Like 2020, top 2 scoring defense. Matthew Judon, Calais Campbell up front, Marcus Peters at corner, who was an interceptions leader that year. They lose to the Bills in the divisional round. 2019, Lamar Jackson's MVP year. The Ravens were a top 3 scoring defense that year. They led the league in takeaways. they lose in the wild card round to Derrick Henry and the Titans. One-dimensional offense, not a very special defense. Like, we have seen the Ravens lose with elite defenses before. Defense is not what has been the problem for the Ravens. The problem has been the offense. The Ravens overpaid for Max Crosby because Max Crosby is not the difference between the Ravens winning a Super Bowl in 2026 and them falling short in 2026. The Ravens definitely overpaid. Like, having an elite defense has not helped Lamar Jackson get over the hump. It hasn't. Having an elite defense has not helped Lamar Jackson get over the hump, which is why the Ravens definitely overpaid for Max Crosby. Like, having an elite defense has not helped Lamar Jackson get over the hump. If Lamar Jackson couldn't get it done with the defenses that he has had in the past, 2023, 2020, 2019, like, if he couldn't get it done with those units, he's not getting it done this year just because Max Crosby is on the team. Because honestly, at its ceiling, this Ravens team could possibly be an elite unit with Max Crosby, but it most likely won't going into 2026. Like, yes, you have Max Crosby, but Nnamdi Madubuike, who was your best defensive player, is coming off a neck injury. Kyle Hamilton is coming off concussion. Marlon Humphrey has been gradually declining. Like, Roquan Smith has been dealing with hamstring issues. Like, this is like, if Lamar couldn't get it done with the units he's had in the past, he's not getting it done this year with this 2026 unit. Like, with this unit right now that the Ravens have on offense and defense, the Ravens aren't beating the Bills, after picking up DJ Moore. They're definitely not beating the Texans. All the moves they've made on defense, adding Reed Blankenship to that blanket secondary, best pass rush duo in the NFL, Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. They're not beating the Colts, a healthy Colts team. They're not beating a healthy Denver Broncos team, just signing J.K. Dobbins. They're not beating the Chiefs this year, acquiring Kenneth Walker, still retaining their draft picks. Like, the Ravens are not winning like Max Crosby is not getting the Ravens to a Super Bowl this year the way it's currently constructed. If Lamar Jackson couldn't get it done with the past elite defenses he has had, he's not getting it done this year just because Max Crosby's on the roster. He's not. Like, the Ravens needed to spend, like, as opposed to Max Crosby, the Ravens needed to spend those resources on a receiver one. They needed to spend those resources on a receiver one to make the Ravens passing game more potent. Obviously, the Ravens have always been known for their run game. They were a top run game before Derrick Henry even got there with Gus Edwards, a healthy J.K. Dobbins, Justice Hill in the mix. Like, obviously, they're an elite run game now with a duo of Lamar and Derrick Henry, but clearly that hasn't worked. Clearly that has not worked. The Ravens needed to spend resources on making their air raid more dangerous, more potent, not acquiring another defensive piece. Like, it's like, because like the Ravens needed a receiver because clearly Zay Flowers ain't enough. Like, trading for Max Crosby, but not re-signing Isaiah Likely is weird to me. Like, trading for Max Crosby, but not re-signing Tyler Linderbaum, your all-pro center, is weird to me. Trading for Max Crosby, but not re-signing DeAndre Hopkins is weird to me. Not pursuing Alec Pierce, not reportedly pursuing Brian Thomas Jr. after he was just put on the trade block. Like, not pursuing Mike Evans, but trading for Max Crosby is weird to me. Like, it's honestly really weird to me. And we can't say with these moves, the way the Ravens currently look, that Lamar Jackson has no excuses this year. We can't say that because this Ravens offense, one, this Ravens offense doesn't really look dangerous, and the defense may not be elite this year, even with Max Crosby. So we can't even say Lamar Jackson has no excuses this year. We can't. It's all weird to me. The Ravens should have used those resources on a receiver. And the way this Ravens team looks right now, we can't say Lamar Jackson doesn't have any excuses going into 2026 like we could last year. Last year, we could say that. He had his receiver one in D-Hop, who by no means looked washed this year. It's just Lamar Jackson was hurt. We saw D-Hop make some fantastic catches throughout the season. Like, we could say that last year when he had Zay Flowers as number 2 receiver. He had a guy who could be an elite tight end in Isaiah Likely. He still had a pretty decent threat and weapon in Mark Andrews. Even though he's declined, he still could be a 700 to 600 yard tight end. Still a talented offensive line. One of arguably the best fullback in football in Patrick Ricard, and a Hall of Fame running back in Derrick Henry. We could say Lamar Jackson had no excuses last year, especially with a healthy defense. We could say that. We can't say that this year because the offense doesn't really look like a threat at all. It looks kind of weak. Zay Flowers is back at that receiver one spot. Isaiah Likely is now a New York Giant, which puts Mark Andrews back at your tight end, your TE1 spot, who obviously is not in a position to have that sort of responsibility the way he's been declining. You didn't re-sign D-Hop. You lost your all-pro center, making your franchise quarterback more susceptible to the pass rush. Like, the defense is slightly hobbled. All the injuries that are kind of on that side of the ball, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, Matabike, like, you can't say Lamar Jackson doesn't have any excuses this year like we could say last year because of how different the team looks in 2026 or will look in 2026 as opposed to what it looked like going into 2025. We can't say that. We just can't say that. So I don't think I'm a Max Crosby fan, love his game. I'm glad he was able to get out of football purgatory and the Las Vegas Raiders. But I don't think with what they gave up for Max Crosby, especially in terms of 2 firsts, what they could have used those draft picks for this season, I don't think this was a great move for the Ravens because they needed help on offense. Like, Max Crosby is obviously a great pickup, but not for what they gave up for him. But looking at another huge move this offseason so far, more so on the free agency side, Mike Evans signs to the 49ers for 3 years, $60 million total. Like, this very, very expensive move, but Mike Evans to the 49ers signing Mike Evans for $60 million is a boomer bust move for the 49ers. It's boomer bust. Like, it's either going to be a Super Bowl year for the 49ers or it's going to be a rebuilding year for the 49ers, kind of like what we thought they were going to have last year in 2025. It's a boomer bust move. Like, at its boom, when healthy, it's a Super Bowl caliber offense. Like, perfect fit schematically. They finally have a number one receiver that can just go and get it, a go and get it type of guy who dominates in 50-50 ball situations. Adding him to, in an offense with an elite running back, an elite tight end when he's healthy, an elite offensive line with Trent Williams at its helm, a dependable quarterback in Brock Purdy, Super Bowl winning offense. At its bust, this is an offense that has struggled with injuries over the past few years, that just paid a super high price to bring another injury-prone and older guy to the unit. At its bust, this is an offensive group that'll probably play 3 to 4 games all together on the same field together this season. Similar to the position the Commanders offense was in this year with Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, and Debo. It's very realistic that this 49ers offense could play maybe 3 to 4 games together with everyone healthy on the field. So it's a super boomer bust move for the 49ers, a very high risk, high reward move for the 49ers. Definitely, in my opinion, overpaid for Mike Evans. Like, I think it's a great move schematically, but we're talking about a team that is really at this point injury prone on both sides of the ball. Both sides of the ball. Like, George Kittle hurt right now. Like Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall were barely on the field last season. On the defensive side of the ball, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, really missing. Nick Bosa missing multiple seasons. Fred Warner obviously missing a good chunk of last season. Like, the 49ers made a very high risk, high reward transaction, because Mike Evans being a 33-year-old receiver coming off a serious injury himself from last season, they just added another injury-prone guy to the pot. And like, there's a chance that this team can stay healthy in 2026, make a huge run. But according to their usual luck and what we've seen in the past couple of years, this is a team that will have serious season-ending injuries on either side of the ball. And if they have and that's super dangerous considering the division that they're in. Like, having a super injury prone team now, especially with Mike Evans added in the mix for the 49ers, having a super injury prone team is specifically dangerous because of the division that they are in, sharing a division with the reigning Super Bowl champs in the Seahawks and the Rams. You look at the Seahawks, an elite defense with a good offense. Not sure exactly how it'll look without Kenneth Walker, but still obviously a Super Bowl caliber team. The Rams, an elite offense and an elite defense right now, with all of the moves that they made on the defensive side of the ball, turning all of their weaknesses into strengths, especially on that secondary. Like, this is a very dangerous position for the 49ers to be in terms of being in a boomer bust sort of year, being in the division that they are in with the elite talent that they're going to have to play twice a year. So Mike Evans, if it could work out, personnel wise, it should work personnel wise, but health wise, usual luck, likelihoods, this could be a bust year for the 49ers. It could be, very well could be. Now, looking at the Eagles specifically, it's been I'm not going to lie, it's been a tough free agency period so far for the Birds. Little depressing. First, looking at Jaelan Phillips. The Panthers signed Jaelan Phillips on a 4-year, $120 million deal. That's a huge loss for the Birds. Huge pickup for the Panthers. Like, losing Jaelan Phillips really hurts. It really hurts. Like, Jaelan Phillips was honestly not only our best pass rusher last year, but he was honestly our best defensive player. Him and Nakobe Dean. Like, Jaelan Phillips was our best defensive player on that side of the ball. Like without him, we were the 25th ranked defense in the NFL. With him, we jumped to top 5. Like his impact, Jaelan Phillips' impact on the Eagles is unquestionable. The Panthers defense though is up right now. They get a top 10 to top 15 pass rusher in the league as of now going into 2026. A guy who in my opinion has a defensive player of the year ceiling. Like you're pairing Jaelan Phillips with Derek Brown and Tershawn Wharton. That could be a nasty 3-man rush for the Panthers. A nasty 3-man rush for the Panthers. Pairing that with what could be an elite cornerback duo in J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson. Like this was a huge loss for the Birds, but a huge pickup for the Panthers. Huge pickup for the Panthers. The Eagles defense is definitely worse now than it was with Jaelan Phillips. And obviously the Panthers defense is much better looking going into 2026 than it was in 2025. Now that they have the stud edge rusher in Jaelan Phillips, but he was just too expensive. Like the Eagles were never going to pay him $120 million. They were never going to pay him $120 million. Like Jaelan Phillips is worth that money to the Panthers, but it was too expensive for the Eagles. Like it was too expensive for the Eagles because of all the guys that the Eagles have to pay in the next 2 years. In the next year to 2 years, like Jalen Carter has to get paid. We already extended Jordan Davis. Quinion Mitchell has to get paid. Cooper DeJean has to get paid. Moro Ojomo honestly deserves to get paid. Like the Eagles have too many guys on defense that are going to need money to stay in the building. The Eagles were never going to pay Jaelan Phillips $120 million. Now, I do think Jaelan Phillips, re-signing Jaelan Phillips should have been a bigger priority than extending Jordan Davis. Now, that being said, obviously Jordan Davis had a great year. He gets better every single year. He's dependable on and off the field, which is super important, super reliable guy, super talented, both physically and mentally. But I do think the Eagles should have prioritized re-signing Jaelan Phillips as opposed to extending Jordan Davis. But with that being said, now that they did extend Jordan Davis, there was no way they were going to be able to pay Jaelan Phillips $120 million and then still be able to pay Jalen Carter, Quinion Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean specifically. And those are guys you have to pay. Jalen Carter specifically is the guy that the Eagles have to pay. Like the Eagles weren't going to be able to pay $120 million to Jaelan Phillips and still have money to pay Jalen Carter. And the Eagles can't afford to lose Jalen Carter. And I'm going to say this a little louder for the other teams in the back. Like Jalen Carter is not for sale. Jalen Carter is 100% not for sale. Like that's for the 49ers. That's for the Packers. That's for the Raiders. All the teams that have been calling Howie all week, trying to feel him out for offering him trade packages. Like Jalen Carter is not for sale. The Eagles cannot afford not to pay Jalen Carter with the immediate impact that he has on this defense. Like without Jalen Carter, the Eagles' run stop defense is super suspect. It's super suspect. Like you look at the 3 of the games that Jalen Carter missed last year, like the Eagles defense couldn't stop the run game to save our lives. Like you look at the Chargers, you look at the Chargers game, 169 rushing yards given up. They were doing whatever they wanted to do. The Giants game 1, 172 rushing yards. Cam Scadaboo was running all up and down, like running over Zach Bond, doing whatever he wanted to do. Cowboys, week 1, 119 rushing yards. Javonte Williams was doing whatever he wanted to do. Like, without Jalen Carter, our run-stop defense is night and day. Like, Jalen Carter is not only our best overall defensive player, like, he's not only key in the pass rush, but he is the biggest factor, the biggest piece to our run-stop defense as a whole. The Eagles cannot afford not to pay Jalen Carter. So there was no way the Eagles were going to pay Jaelan Phillips over $120 million and still have money to be able to pay Jalen Carter. And Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are 2 all-pro DBs. There was no way. There was no way that was going to happen. But like my biggest concern in the Eagles basically losing Jaelan Phillips is really what certain guys will look like without him. Like, that's my biggest concern, because we saw Jalen Phillips come in and immediately make the guys around him look better. I think we saw this specifically in Adoree Jackson and Jalen Hunt. Like, my biggest concern is what those guys will look like without Jalen Phillips. Like, Adoree Jackson, before the Jalen Phillips trade, was the weakness of the defense. Dude was getting picked on by every single quarterback. He was getting burnt. He was getting scored. Like, he was getting exposed. After the Jalen Phillips trade, this man racks up seven passes defended, gets one interception, actually holding his own on the opposite side of the field of Quinion Mitchell, giving Cooper DeJean giving him a little more leeway in the secondary now that he didn't have to play strictly corner as much. Like, he looked much better after the Jordan Phillips trade. Jalen Hunt, before the Jordan Phillips trade, he looked invisible for most of the first half of the season, minus that touchdown he had against the Vikings. He looked invisible for most of the first half. After the Jalen Phillips trade, this man racks up 5.5 sacks and 2 interceptions, ending the season as our sack leader and interceptions leader. Like, clearly the Jalen Phillips impact was prominent, was shown, was visible on the entire unit, but you saw the change in specific guys as well, like Jalen Hunt and Adoree Jackson. My biggest concern is what those guys will look like in 2026 without Jalen Phillips on the field. That's my biggest concern with us losing Jalen Phillips. Now, losing Jalen Phillips, it does put a lot of pressure on Jalen Hunt and Nolan Smith specifically, having to fill that void on the edge, coming off the edge. It does put a lot of pressure on those guys. Like, how will Jalen Hunt be able to follow up a sack leader and interception leader year without Jalen Phillips in 2026? How will Nolan Smith be able to come in now that he is fully healthy to start the season? Will most likely start at that opposite edge spot. How will he come in and immediately fill that void left open by Jalen Phillips? Like, honestly, at this point, Nolan Smith last year looked like more of a run stopper as opposed to a pass rusher. Like, how will we see that change in 2026 to help fill that void of Jalen Phillips? Because we're going to need Nolan Smith to be able to do both. We're going to need Nolan Smith to live up to his full potential, or at least work towards that in 2026, in terms of showing to be an adequate pass rusher, showing to be as effective as a pass rusher as he is as a run stopper, as he is shown to be as a run stopper. So that's definitely something that it definitely questions that raised to me when we look at this Jalen Phillips departure is, how will certain guys look without Jalen Phillips on the field? And how guys like Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt will respond to that pressure now that they have more of a prominent role on the defense without Jalen Phillips being as involved. But someone else the Eagles lost in free agency that really does hurt is Reed Blankenship. The Eagles lose Reed Blankenship to the Houston Texans. Honestly, losing Reed Blankenship hurts, but it doesn't hurt as much when you remember we have a guy by the name of Andrew Mukuba still on the roster. Freshly drafted, coming off a strong rookie season. Like, I think people forget who Andrew Mukuba is. Like, losing Reed Blankenship hurts, but don't forget, we got Mukuba that's ready to start. Mukuba honestly looked like when he was starting before the injury, he was having a standout rookie season at safety. Standout rookie season. Like, before he got hurt he had a really good preseason. He had a good regular season. Like, in the regular season, we're talking 11 games played, 46 total tackles, 2 TFLs, 2 interceptions, a half sack. So he was not only holding his own in coverage. He was not only standing out in coverage, but he was also a guy that Vic Fangio was able to use as a blitzer as well. Andrew Mukuba is a dog. Andrew Mukuba can definitely help fill that void that is now left open by Reed Blankenship. 100%. Not only can Andrew Mukuba help fill that void that is left open now by a Reed Blankenship departure, but Andrew Mukuba, I think, has shown to be a piece that can contribute to an elite secondary as a whole. Like, he honestly has great ball skills. He's great in coverage, shown to have good instincts, great footwork. Like, you look at a secondary with Andrew Makuba, Cooper DeJean, and a lockdown corner in Quinion Mitchell. Those are pieces that can build an elite secondary, that can contribute to an elite blanket coverage secondary. I think the Eagles need one more piece to be a fully elite secondary, to be a full blanket coverage secondary. But if you have Makuba, you have Quinion Mitchell, and you have Cooper DeJean, those are pieces that can make up an elite secondary for sure. For sure. But with the Eagles losing Reed Blankenship, the Eagles definitely need one more starter piece to help fill that void, to help fully fill that void. Like, the Eagles need to sign now a DB, whether it's a safety or a corner, after losing Reed Blankenship. Like, the Eagles honestly need to sign CJ Gardner-Johnson, Jaquan Brisker, or Nashawn Wright after losing Reed Blankenship. They need to do something. Howie Roseman needs to do something in that secondary after losing Reed Blankenship. Now, we do have some promise. Like, obviously, Andrew Makuba is going to do a good job to help fill that void. Sidney Brown is a starter, is a capable starter at that safety position. But Howie Roseman needs to make one more additional signing. We haven't seen enough from Michael Carter to know if we can really depend on him back there or not. Adoree Jackson, not sure how he'll look without JAELAN Phillips going into 2026. Howie Roseman needs to make one additional signing, at least one additional signing in that secondary to help fully fill that Reed Blankenship hole. And I'm looking at CJ Gardner-Johnson, Jaquan Brisker, or Nashawn Wright as being the perfect candidates to sort of bring in to sort of make up for that loss. CJ Gardner-Johnson specifically, though, like, there's no reason Howie Roseman should not be considering bringing CJ Gardner-Johnson back to the city for a third time. This would be the third time that CJ Gardner-Johnson was signed by the Eagles, was picked up by the Eagles. There's no reason Howie Roseman should not bring in this guy, because every time we have CJ, every time we have that dude, we're Super Bowl caliber defense. Like, I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that every year we have CJ Gardner-Johnson, the defense is playing at an elite level and is in the Super Bowl, is arguably the best defense in the game of football. I don't think that's a coincidence. CJ Gardner-Johnson is a good luck charm for whatever team he's on. Whatever team he's on. Even if he's not fully on the field. Like, CJ Gardner-Johnson was in Philly in 2022. The Eagles lead the league in interceptions and are in the Super Bowl. CJ Gardner-Johnson goes to the Lions. That whole defense is jump-started, and they're honestly, in the regular season, the hottest team in the NFC. In the playoffs, ending the playoff drought for Detroit. CJ Gardner-Johnson comes back to Philly in 2024, and we're in the Super Bowl again. Elite secondary. CJ Gardner-Johnson in 2025 goes to the Texans, spends time in Houston. They're now the best secondary, one of the best secondaries in football. Even though he wasn't on the field as much for the Texans, just his presence in the locker room, his mentorship to those younger guys like Stingley, like Kalen Bullock, like Kamari Lassiter, like Jalen Petrie, his mentorship, his veteran presence in the locker room to those guys definitely had an impact on them contributing to what was one of the, I guess, maybe top 3, top 2 secondaries in the league. Like, CJ Gardner-Johnson has an immediate impact on every defense he is on that has long-lasting effects, especially in the postseason. If Howie Roseman brings CJ Gardner-Johnson back to the city this year, we could likely see, it would definitely give the Eagles a better chance of being a Super Bowl caliber defense again, in spite of who we lost. There's no reason Howie Roseman should not be looking at CJ Gardner-Johnson to bring him back to the city. And honestly, like, Howie Roseman treats CJ Gardner-Johnson like a side chick. He honestly does. Like, CJ Gardner-Johnson gets side chick treatment from Howie Roseman. Like, when the main is acting up, Howie Roseman ends up falling back on his fallback guy and CJ Gardner-Johnson. Like, CJ Gardner-Johnson is always the backup choice for Howie Roseman, but Like, it's crazy. It's crazy he gets treated that way, even though CJ Gardner-Johnson is always that piece that is able to help get the Eagles over that hump at the end of the season. It's honestly crazy. There's no reason Howie Roseman should not be considering bringing CJ Gardner-Johnson back to the city. But, you know, other guys that Howie Roseman should definitely consider bringing in are Jaquan Brisker and Deshaun Wright. 100%. We need, like, Deshaun Wright is a lockdown corner. I believe he was a leader in takeaways this past season. He contributed to the Bears secondary, which led the league in takeaways this past season. Like Jaquan Brisker as well, contributing to that same secondary. Like either one of those guys would be a huge piece for the Eagles going into 2026. But the Texans defense is honestly more elite now than it was yesterday, than it was last week with Reed Blankenship. Like just looking at that secondary by itself, this is complete blanket coverage in this secondary right now. You add Reed Blankenship to a secondary that already has Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter, two lockdown corners, Jalen Petrie, Kalen Bullock, who was a standout rookie last season. Like Reed Blankenship makes the Houston Texans an even more elite defense than it already was, on top of the fact that they still have the arguably the best pass rushing duo in the NFL right now in Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, who was just extended. So the Texans defense is going to be even more of a problem than it already was. But like, we talk about no excuses. Like we talk about Lamar having no excuses. The real quarterback who has no excuses going into 2026 is CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud has no more excuses. He has elite coaching in D'Amico Ryans. He obviously has an elite defense. That secondary with Reed Blankenship added to it. Best pass rushing duo in the NFL. He has an elite offense if they stay healthy. Nico Collins coming back this year. Tank Dell should be coming back this year. Dalton Schultz just extended. David Montgomery just picked up in a trade. You still have Nick Chubb as a rotational piece in the backfield. Like this is honestly Christian Kirk if they re-sign him. Like CJ Stroud has no excuses going into 2026. Like we need to see rookie year CJ Stroud again. This is the year we should see rookie year CJ Stroud again. That's a guy who has no excuses. Not Lamar. CJ Stroud is the guy who has no excuses going into 2026. But someone else the Eagles lost that really does hurt is Nakobe Dean. Like losing Nakobe Dean definitely hurts. He was obviously the spark plug of the defense last year. Like it was the defense looked fully energized when he was on the field. Looked like an elite linebacker last year for the games he played, an elite blitzer. But if we're looking at all of the guys the Eagles did lose in free agency, Nakobe Dean is probably the most replaceable because of who is left on the squad, because of Jahad Campbell. Nakobe Dean is an elite linebacker when he's healthy, but he's the most replaceable because of the fact that we still have Jahad Campbell. Jahad Campbell made Nakobe Dean replaceable with what he did in his rookie year. Don't forget, Jahad Campbell was a defensive rookie of the year candidate before Nakobe Dean came back healthy and took his starting job back. Like, it's hard to say Nakobe Dean is the biggest loss when the Eagles will still have an elite linebacker duo without Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean is like it hurts. It hurts not being able to see him in an Eagles uniform in 2026, but he's definitely more replaceable than a Reed Blankenship, than a Jalen Phillips because of who the Eagles will have at linebacker in 2026. Like Zach Bond and Jahad Campbell can be and will most likely be an elite linebacker duo in 2026 because those are two guys that can do it all. Jahad Campbell in his rookie year, 76 total tackles, 11 QB pressures, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception, a clutch interception, fourth quarter against the Bucs that led to an Eagles dub in week 4, I believe. Like, Nakobe Dean is the most replaceable because of the fact that we have Jahad Campbell. And I didn't even mention Jeremiah Trotter Jr. So losing Nakobe Dean does suck, but that is a loss that we can come back from because of the guys that we still have on the roster, most notably Jahad Campbell. Now, something I'm definitely upset at, though, is losing Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson, like, I have mixed feelings about losing Jahan Dotson. Like, I'm upset that we're losing Jahan Dotson because of how valuable he is as a receiver 3. But I'm also happy because I know he's going to get way more love in Atlanta. He was he was severely underutilized in this Eagles offense. Severely underutilized. The coaching, the talent that was on the offense this past year, he was underutilized. He is going to cook as a Falcon. Jahan Dotson is going to have a huge breakout year as a Falcon playing in a Kevin Stefanski system. Like, Stefanski is definitely going to put Jahan Dotson to much better use than what Kevin Patullo was able to do. Like, the Falcons offense, honestly, like, Jahan Dotson is going to be a problem for the Falcons, whether it's Tua throwing to him or Michael Penix throwing to him. Like, in an offense with Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Jahan Dotson is going to be a huge piece for that offense in 2026, and it's going to be fun watching him actually get the ball. Now the Commanders, another huge free agency move was the Commanders signing Odafe Oweh to a 4-year, $100 million deal. And this was honestly one of, if not the biggest acquisition of the free agency, arguably, because it was one of the biggest targets on the market, filling one of the biggest needs in the NFL. The Commanders had a huge need for a pass rusher, especially for an edge rusher after the 2025 season. Dietrich Wise missing most of the season. Dorrance Armstrong going down during the season. Like, this was a great pair in the free agency. Like, Odafe Oweh going to the Commanders was a great acquisition because they're adding Odafe Oweh to a team that could really see a jump start that is due for a jump start in 2026. Like, Oweh is joining a front that will have a jump start in 2026. Like, Oweh is joining a front with Deron Payne, healthy Deron Payne, freshly paid Deron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, healthy Kinlaw, a healthy Dietrich Wise, a healthy Dorrance Armstrong. Like, this was a great pickup for the Commanders and a great acquisition for the Commanders in then picking Odafe Oweh, because you saw one of the biggest targets on the free agency market fill one of the biggest needs in the NFL. But that's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms, and I will be back later on with more shameless takes.